بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنام وخاتم النبيين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، أما بعد. فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين. وقال الله سبحانه وتعالى رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بدأ الإسلام غريبا فسيعود غريبا فطوبى للغرباء، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. My respected brothers, sisters, fellow youngsters, mothers, parents, children, as we live in this society, in the Western world, we are bombarded with multiple issues at one time. Sometimes we feel like we have tackled one issue, but another issue arises. And then, as our children grow, we think they'll become more independent and we'll have less issues, but the issues grow more. The concerns grow more. And this is a system of life. Sometimes your children test you, and sometimes you test them. Sometimes your wife tests you, and sometimes you test her. Your wife is your Jannah, and you are her Jannah. Which I mean, sometimes she has to do sabr with you, and sometimes you have to do sabr with her. And the reward of sabr is وَجَزَاهُمْ بِمَا صَبَرُوا جَنَّةً وَحَرِيرًا. And everything is a blessing. Sometimes even a child that is disobedient is a blessing because it makes you connect with Allah and come to the masjid and make dua. It makes you refocus your point. So brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, the greatest humans that came to this world were also parents. And the Quran gives us a highlight of how they dealt with their families. Matter of fact, there's an interesting prophet who was the Khalil of Allah, but his prayers are documented in the Quran. And not every prophet's prayers are in the Quran. But Prophet Ibrahim ﷺ's specific prayers that he made for his family are in the Quran. And knowing the challenges that Ibrahim went through and the emotions that he made dua with are very challenging. In the verse that I recited Baqarah before you, where Allah says to Ibrahim ﷺ, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. When Allah tested Ibrahim ﷺ with different tests and he was successful. And basic Islamic teachings teach us he went through three major tests. One was the test of leaving his family in the valley of Mecca. A valley that had no crops, neither did it have the potential for crops. بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. Nothing. Nothing. No export, no import. Nothing comes here. Nobody lives here. But Ibrahim leaves his family there, and by the order of Allah has to go back and invite the people of Sham at that time towards God. The second was, one of the major tests was being thrown into the fire. Where Allah says, قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. And he was successful. Allah ordered the fire to become cool. The third was, when he visits his son Ismail after a few years, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. When he sees a dream multiple times, 3 nights in a row, that he is shown by Allah in a vision that he is sacrificing his son. All of these are challenges. And Allah is telling Ibrahim to sacrifice his son. And Allah is saying to him, you must do it the way Allah is saying it. And he asks his son Ismail, what should I do? Ismail says, إِفْعَلْ مَا تُؤْمَرْ. Do it exactly as you've been ordered. Don't do less, don't do more. سَتَجِدُنِي إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الصَّابِرِينَ. You will be finding me from the patient people. So Prophet Ibrahim ﷺ did a lot of tests within family. Personally, my observation, I think that the biggest challenge was to leave his family in the valley. Leaving them alone? Without a credit card? Without a debit card? Nothing? Someone can rob them, no water. he falls over the hill and he goes into sajda and he makes his dua. رَبِّ جَعَلْنِي رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ. The first dua he makes. رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Oh Allah, these children and my wife, my child Ismail, an infant, and my wife that I leave behind, I ask you to make them establish salah. What? Ask for water. Ask for support, material support. But the first dua he makes for his family is that they establish salah. Oh Allah, you make them establish salah. Even at this age, the father is thinking, I want my child to be successful with Allah's pleasure. This is why in child development they will tell you that the mindset of a child's personality is developed at the age of 4. Ghazali rahimahullah says that a child till the age of 2 observes everything the parents do and they say. After the age of 2 they see whatever they heard and they do whatever they saw. So don't think your child is not observing even when he's not speaking and she's not speaking. They're intaking, and when they perform what they saw, you will notice, why is this bad language? Why is this aggression? Why are they behaving like this? You'll recognize it was our own behavior. And some things are inherited to the children just by our character. So this is a fikr, and this is a concern of Prophet Ibrahim as. And you'll find constantly Ibrahim as making this dua. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Ibrahim, فَأَتَمَّنْ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. O Ibrahim, we make you the leader of mankind. لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Ibrahim was very cautious. He said, Oh Allah, قَالَ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي. Oh Allah, don't just make me the imam, make my children also the imams. قَالَ لَا يَنَالُ عَهْدِ الظَّالِمِ. Allah says, we will never make those who are oppressors leaders. And Prophet ﷺ says, أَنَا دَعْتُ أَبِي إِبْرَاهِيم. I am the accepted supplication of my father Ibrahim. Where he says that, رَبَّنَا وَبَعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا. Oh Allah, you sent amongst these people, my nation, my family, a messenger that will come from the end of time. And that is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He made dua for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's making dua for offsprings that far. If you look in the lineage of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it's very simple. Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib bin Hashim bin Abdul Munaf bin Qusay bin Kilab bin Murrah bin Ka'ab bin Lu'ay bin Ghalib bin Fahr bin Malik bin Nadr bin Kinana bin Khuzaymah bin Mudrika bin Ilyas bin Mudar bin Nazar bin Muqawwim bin Nahur bin Kayrih bin Ya'rub bin Yashrib bin Nabit bin Ismail bin Ibrahim alayhi salam. This is the family of Ibrahim salam. Making dua, oh Allah, make my children from the righteous. When Allah gave him the leadership of imam, as a leader, as a righteous leader, said, no, I want my children to be righteous also. So this teaches us, brothers and sisters, we're not in a victory in wealth or fame or prosperity. If your daughter or your son goes to an Ivy League school, that's not the measuring yard of our success only. That is a potential measuring yard. But our success is our daughter that's in college, our son that's in college, independent, living away from us. Are they responsible to pray Salat al-Fajr on their own? Are they respectful enough for their families? Common notice is that parents realize it when it's too late. When the daughter starts to roll her eyes, and the son starts to speak back or walk away, and has so much exposure to gadgets and phones, then we say, what do? We need a counselor, we need a psychologist, we need an imam. We need to go for umrah with the whole family. Maybe we can give them a ghusl with zamzam. We could do a bypass surgery and do zamzam washing. No, you're not the prophet. Your son is not the prophet, and you're not going to do shaqq al-sadr. It's not going to happen. What is the solution to this? This is Ibrahim as-salam making dua in the infancies of the children. And he's making this dua in the end again. رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Allah, you make them establish salah. Second dua. فَجَعَلْ أَفِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ. Oh Allah, you make the hearts of people inclined towards this area, Makkah. وَارْزُقْهُمْ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْكُرُونَ. And you bless them with thamarat. Thamara in fruit, it roughly translates into fruit, but it translates into wealth, prosperity. Although you give these people of Makkah prosperity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you can see today, is 2,000 years post this dua, and now 1,400 years ahead. We're at 44,000 years later. We're talking about this 3,400 years later. We're looking at Makkah as the most people who visit for salah. Yuqim as-salah. The most established salah is done in Makkah. What is the reward of one prayer in Makkah? 100,000. So in numbers it's more, and also in reward it's more. Is the dua accepted? Naam. Make people's hearts attracted to this place. Everyone wants to go to see the Kaaba. You know, an alcoholic who's addicted, when they see the Kaaba, they're ready to do tawbah sometimes. That's how strong the vision of the Kaaba is. And then Allah gave all the fruits that are outside, inside Makkah today, in Haram. So brothers and sisters, the dua that we have to make for our children, رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is a dua of the righteous. Allah says, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ From the righteous people, with their character is to make dua for their children to be righteous. Make them the coolness for your eyes. What is coolness for your eyes? Anyone that knows little Arabic, قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ means when a person is traveling in the desert and he's thirsty and he's drained and exhausted, and from far he sees water, that coolness that comes in the eye of the thirsty human is coolness to the eyes. That should be your child. That should be your spouse. Nothing should make you more happy than the Quran in the hand of your child. But not a laptop with Facebook and Twitter and social media and Instagram posting. So brothers and sisters, we live in this world. These are our challenges. Prophets struggle with their children. Nuh alayhi salam has the biggest struggle. Yusuf alayhi salam's father has struggled with it. So prophets struggled. They were prophets. We're going to struggle. But the struggle has reward in it. What did the children of Yaqub do? First they plotted the assassination of Yusuf. One brother says, don't kill him. Just throw him into a well. Just throw him into a well. Drops him into a well. The pain that the father went through of 40 years. Yusuf was in the well from the age of 7 to 30. And he was away from his parents from the age of 7 to 37. 40 years of no sight of the father and the son. Based on the scheme of their brothers. Yusuf a.s. father Yaqub cried so much. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ فَهُوَ كَظِيمٌ. Now there's an ayah in the Quran that says, in this surah twice, it says صَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ عَسَى اللَّهُ يَأْتِنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا. There's two times this ayah comes. In the first part it says, Allah knows your plot. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. Allah is the most helpful in what you are describing in the situation. In the second part, he says, فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ عَسَى اللَّهُ يَأْتِنِي بِهِمْ جَمِيعًا. Beautiful patience, Allah will bring them back all. In this sabr, let me teach my lesson for myself and all of us, is there's patience on the loss of Yusuf. You have to be tolerant. But also Yaqub has to be patient in dealing with the rest of the children. He could easily say, hey, you plotted the killing of my most beloved son Yusuf, who saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon bow down to him and prostrate to him. رَأَيْتُ أَحَدَ عَشْرَ كَوْكَبًا وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ رَأَيْتُمْ لِي سَاجِدِينَ. I saw this. So he's no ordinary child with beauty, with character. The father does not kick the children out of the home, but keeps these criminals under the same roof. That means when your child rebels, you still have to be the parent. You still have to work with him. When your daughter is struggling, when your son is struggling, don't just boycott them. Work with them. And don't start talking to them when they're struggling. You should always be their friend. Such a friend that they feel comfortable around you and you don't judge them. And Yaqub as-salam had this struggle with his children. Finally, after 40 years, when the brothers are united, 40 years of sabr. Actually, he went blind because he cried over Yusuf's loss. Blind. وَابْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ. The children said to their father, قَالُوا تَاللَّهِ تَذْكُرُ يُوسُفَ حَتَّى تَكُونَ حَرَضًا أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْهَالِكِينَ. Oh father, you talk about Yusuf, you remember Yusuf so much that either you, harad in Arabic means either you will psychologically lose your mind, mental state of loss, or halikin, or you'll be in physical loss. Some Fakhr Razi says in tafsir, harad can also mean that you are not physically available and not mentally available. And you're not dead. You're in between. Such a painful state. And almost like a vegetative state. You really don't know what's going on. Mentally, physically, you're not there. This will eventually happen to you because you think about Yusuf so much. Can you imagine how much he loved his son? Nevertheless, when the parents, Yaqub and Yusuf, are united, the children come back. قَالُوا يَا أَبَانَ اسْتَغْفِرْ لَنَا ذُنُوبَنَا. Oh father, please, we want you to ask Allah for forgiveness. Now, those same criminals are doing tawbah. So never lose hope. Children, make effort, make dua, make effort, make dua. But the effort has to start when they're young. This is why in Surah Ibrahim, Rabbi ja'alni muqim as-salati wa min dhurriyyati. Allah, make me, my children, amongst those who establish salah. Allah says, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلُ. They're building the house of Allah. So they're involved in the masjid. You, your family should be involved where? In the masjid. So Allah, Ibrahim a.s. is building the house of Allah. Ismail is providing him the bricks. And they're going around the Maqam Ibrahim and building the house. رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. Oh Allah, in this situation, oh Allah, you accept us. This is why they say the best dua is a dua that's made in the act, while you're doing the good act, and post the good action. Because Allah sympathizes your act. It's like this person is actually doing something and he's asking. One of the common themes of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, Mufti Shafi rahimahullah says in the Quran, is that first you act, then you ask. Just look at the meaning. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. Then you ask, إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Oh Allah, we worship you only, and only do we ask from you. It says in tafsir that you must first provide the service, then ask for wage. Show up, then you will see Allah's help. And that's what Ibrahim a.s. was doing constantly, working with his son. And Ismail is not the product of Ibrahim. He is a product of his mother Hajar. Because for years Ibrahim was not even there. And Hajar herself. What a mother whose run and walk has been demonstrated even today. She walked back and forth, Safa Marwa. Safa Marwa. In the Shafi school, it's actually 14 times. One back and forth is one round. Can you imagine? If that opinion was to take place, how many walks did this lady do who was in the desert without water? She cried so much, she was in pain that she dropped. Then Jibreel brought water from the heels of Ismail. So brothers and sisters and friends, a lot of times, when we drop our children off to Islamic schools or public schools, we're really worried about their grades, but we don't worry about their adab, their character, and their mannerism. See, knowledge will always come to them when they're in the system. Character, manners, courtesy is the most important thing. And the Prophet ﷺ says, بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent for this courtesy. I was sent to teach this. And someone will say, what education in our times, in your times, for uncles too, was based on your manners. When you saw someone without manners, you knew they were from the village. Like they're not educated. But today our children live in the city. They're highly educated, but they have no manners. There's an oxymoron mentality that's going on, complete bipolar behavior. They're so educated, but they're so uneducated at times. They're always on their phone. They're always ignoring the context of discussions going on. This is very important. In the house of Rasulullah, a strange boy moves in. This is very difficult. Salama marries the Prophet ﷺ. She has a son named Salama. Her husband passed away, Abu Salama. The Prophet ﷺ married her. Now this is the stepson of the Prophet. So the Prophet had not worked with him for many years. So this kid is walking in he doesn't have the level of manners to live in the house of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm not questioning his manners, but the standard of the house of the Prophet. And it's very high. You're living in that house. Can you imagine the standard? He walks in, he sits down on the meal, and he's ready to eat. And how do children eat? Just jump at it. They had food 2 hours ago, and they see food again, they'll jump at it like they didn't see it for 2 weeks. They'll jump at it. So the Prophet ﷺ says to the child, Ya ghulam, oh my beloved young man. Ya ghulam. Beautiful in the way to say, Ya ghulam. He says, Sammillah. Before you start eating, just say Allah's name. First thing, teach the children remembering Allah. Sammillah. وَكُلْ بِيَمِينِكَ. Eat with your right hand. وَكُلْ مِمَّا يَلِيكَ. And eat what's near you. Eat in a very courteous manner. This is basic. And the Prophet ﷺ, who is a messenger, the leader of prophets, is teaching a kid how to eat. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us how to meet our children. He meets Hassan and Hussein. He goes into the house. They want to play with the Prophet. The Prophet goes on his knees, goes down like a horse, and he's giving them a ride. And on the masjid, comes out of the room of the house. The Sahabi say, Ni'mal markab ya Rasulullah. What a ride. What a ride, Ni'mal markab. This is not an Aston Martin. No, this is not a Bugatti. Or a Z06 Corvette. This is a Prophet ﷺ. When they say that Burak, that ride that took the Prophet to Jannah, I say clearly the Burak was lucky the Prophet went on his back. The Burak was fortunate. When the Buraq was taking the Prophet to Mi'raj, it started to show that arrogance. You know, horses, they're just naturally arrogant because of their stature. This wasn't a horse, neither was it a mule, but was something in between. And it was arrogant because this horse, this ride, had taken all the prophets on a journey. The journey of Ibrahim from Sham to Mecca was on this Buraq. It went slowly. So every prophet went on this beautiful ride. And the prophet was not going to make a journey within the world, but actually to the heavens. So the Buraq showed some little bit, you know, apna ghurur dikhaya. Like it showed its style. You know, when a bride or a beautiful dress up person, just even when we dress up nice, we kind of like have a little chip on our shoulder. Like, look at me. You know, freshly shaved. Astaghfirullah, I'm just joking. But we just act like, you know, we look fresh. So the Buraq was told by Jibreel, O Buraq, ma rakibaka ahadan a'zamu min Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one greater than Muhammad has ever sat on your back. Calm down. This is the greatest human to ride. You're lucky he's riding you. You're lucky. But then, even then, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is giving a ride on the back, and Hassan Hussein. They said, Ni'mal markab, what a ride. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Ni'mal rakiban. The riders are also special. The riders are also special. See, children are very important and they're very sensitive. The Prophet ﷺ is giving, standing and giving khutbah. Hassan walks in and he's stumbling. Hussein crawls and he walks into the masjid. Small masjid. And in the house of Fatima and Ali and Isha, they were all adjacent. If you go to Medina and there's a space that the Imam walks out and he sits, outside Bab al-Salam and Bab al-Baqi, when you go to Jannat al-Baqi, there's on the left, when you walk to it, you see Jannat al-Baqi on the left, there's this room. If you look against the wall, there's this green window. That was the house of Ali and Fatima. So very close to the Prophet's home and room. So they walked. They crawled in, walking in, like slipping and falling, like a kid walking in. The Prophet ﷺ gets off the member. He grabs his grandchildren. He carries them and brings them to the member. He says, قَدْ صَدَقَ اللَّهِ إِنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ فِتْنَةً. Allah said the truth, indeed your wealth and your children are a trial for you. They're a test for you. What do you do with them? What's your plan? You want to work from 6 to 6 and come home and watch TV? What's your plan with your children? What's your plan? What do you want to introduce them to? What do you want your children to be? Hafiz is just an instrument. It's not sufficient. How many kids become Hafiz but they don't show up to the masjid again? Hafiz is a tool to keep them connected to the Quran. What do we want our children to be? And that's my question to you. I'm concerned, you should be concerned. We live in a society, every second they're being targeted with ideologies and concepts. My child sees the screen, one of them, he jumps at it. I put my phone away, I don't even try to use it at home. And I'm not saying it's haram, but I'm saying it's important that we raise our children in maturely, very strong principles with deen in their lives. And the deen cannot come with this ideology. Do what I tell you to do and don't do what I do. That doesn't work. Once a father spoke to me when I was studying. He said, talk to my son, he smokes. He's smoking. So I said, okay. And he was not just smoking e-cigarette. Back then they didn't have e-cigarette. But I think he was doing more than cigarettes, he was doing more than that. So I had to sit down with him. So I sat down with him, I said, Akhi, what's going on? He talked to me, I talked to him, he said, listen, I'm going to tell you, the Sheikh, I wasn't a Sheikh, I was his friend at the time, finishing my school. The last year he said, listen, I know my dad asked you to sit with me, but I want to make this real. He said, if my dad is going to preach to me, you need to talk to my dad first. I said, oh, please, I don't want to get into family affair. That's not what I'm here, I'm just a young guy trying to help your dad. He says, yes, cigarette, smoking is haram. If he thinks, but he's asking, what's more haram, gambling or smoking? He said, my father has lottery tickets in his armrest, in his dashboard, and is that halal, Sheikh? How is that possible? So it's very important that our children are watching every single thing. When we raise our voice in front of our wife, and our children are watching, they're watching this. They're very sensitive. This is why we need to show love. And the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever treats his daughter equal to his son, or even better, Allah will raise him and give him Jannah on the Day of Judgment. Don't think your daughter is any inferior to your son. A lot of times, fathers and mothers are all concerned about their son's education. And daughters, they'll get married and they'll find their house. No, it's not like that. The Prophet ﷺ didn't guarantee Jannah if you raise your boy correctly. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ala jariyataini hatta tablugha." Anyone that raises their daughters correctly until they reach a puberty age and they finally get married, and when they're capable to get married, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ana wa kahatini fil Jannah." Me and him will be this close in paradise. And look at the love that he used to give to Fatima. Special love. So brothers and sisters, don't ignore your daughters. Give respect and give love to your children, and vice versa. My friends and my young brothers and sisters who are sitting here, if you want, I always say to young people, the easiest ticket to Jannah is respecting parents. A man came to Ibn Umar carrying his mother on his shoulder, walking around the Kaaba, doing Safa Marwa. And he said to Ibn Umar, I came from Yemen carrying my mother, and I did Hajj. Hal addaytu haqqaha, have I fulfilled the right of my mother? Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu says, La bitalaqatin wahida, even that one breath, the breath that your mother took when you were in the womb of your mother, you did not even fulfill that breath. Not even that breath. So my young friends who are here, who have parents alive, take advantage of them. I called a friend whose mother had a stroke last week, and I said, how's it going? He said, Sheikh, one advice, if your mother's alive, just take advantage. Mother's alive, a man came from Yemen to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, Uridu an ubayyaka ala yadi. I want to stay with you, I want to pledge on your hand, I want to fight for your cause, I'm there for you, Ya Rasulullah. The Prophet ﷺ said, how, do you have any parents alive? He says, he asked him this question, Ummuka hayyatun, is your mother alive? The man says, Naam. So how did you leave your mother? And he's not leaving his mother to go hang out with his friends. He's going where? To the Prophet ﷺ, the greatest human in the world. Wouldn't you want to leave your family to join the Prophet? And the Prophet ﷺ said, how was your mother? He said, my mother was crying when I left. The Prophet said, إِلْزِمْ رِجْلَهَا فَثَمَّ الْجَنَّةِ. Go back, sit by the feet of your mother, your paradise lies there. Smiling at your mother is equal to Hajj and Umrah accepted. Hadith of the Prophet. Just smiling. You need to go all the way to earn paradise. Paradise is in your room, in your house. Amazing, unbelievable hadith. So my friends, I don't want to prolong this so much, but there are two aspects of our religion. One is the parenting, and one is respecting our parents. And most importantly, we need to be careful everything that we do. Our children are more precious than pearls. Either there are sadqa jariyah for us. Either they will take us to Jannah, or they will drive us to Jahannam. So it's important that we take care of our children, we make dua for them. And sometimes it takes parents to discipline the children, and sometimes it takes children to discipline the parents. Does that make sense? I want to stay awake till 10 o'clock. I pray Isha at 8, 2 more hours, but my children want to go to sleep early so we can go to school next day. So I will have to sacrifice my desire for the children. Like this, we will become, this concept, circulation is so important because it makes us better. It makes us better. And there is no pain greater than the pain that we have for children. A man said to me, the Sheikh, I've seen all types of pain. Financial problems, health problems. But this pain that I'm going through with my son, my eldest son, it's killing me. It's killing me. It's so painful. It made Yaqub blind because he loved us. It's just the way Allah created us. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us obedient to Him, to make our children obedient to Him. When we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our children the coolness to our eyes, to make us the coolness to us, the eyes of our spouse. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our children like the grandchildren of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like Aisha radiallahu anha, Hafsa radiallahu anha. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to resurrect our children with the children of the Sahaba, with the leaders and ulama. Make our children du'at, salihin, muslihin, who are reformers of this deen in this part of the world. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make them the coolness to our eyes and protect them from all the evil. Because we cannot do it. We ask you, oh Allah, you give us the strength, the wisdom, and you protect our children, you protect us from the temptations of our nafs and the plots of the shaitan. Ameen. Inshallah, we'll take Q&A if there's anyone has any questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free.
So, Assalamu alaikum. We have volunteers passing on the index card. Write on the questions on the index card and pass it on to Brother Anwar, and he will pass it on to Imam for answer. But if we can take one question right straight away, and then we can collect the index cards. Okay.
Good question. If our parents are not, if one of our parents or both of our parents are not alive, we should read Allahumma Rabbi Rahamhuma Kama Rabbayani Saghira after every salah. At least once, 3 times good. If you could read Surah Fatiha in the morning or in the evening and send the reward to your parents. Fatiha is very powerful for the deceased. If you have more time, even reading Quran, Yasin for them, Sadqa Jariyah. Personally, I would say every charity that you give should be given on their name. Every money, anything you give, you should be on the name of your mother. This, you know. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if your parents, one of your parents have passed away, and if you have an aunt that's still alive, serving her is like serving your mother. You know. And if they're not alive, serving the friends of your parents is also charity to your parents. Anything that will make you happy, even if they're not here today. And though they're physically not there, there's still this ruhani, this spirit connection. And they'll find out. Allah will give them, inform them of this. And the best advice that I say is that do something for your parents that on the Day of Judgment they will be extremely proud. Some people need motivation to become better. And the best motivation is not having parents around. You know, a lot of times a person will start a cancer charity fund, you know, or some water wells somewhere in the world on the name of the child. You know, when Yusra, Dia were shot and they had this dentistry thing in Syria for the refugees. So starting something and doing something very powerful, and that's motivation that, you know, I'm doing this for my mother. For the sake of Allah, for sure, but this is, my parents are my motivation. A lot of people in life have been motivated for an external element, something else kind of triggered them. You know, football players will tell you that I was motivated because it was my mom. We were living in the projects and I had nothing else. Professors will say the same thing. I was motivated because my dad wanted me to become a doctor. He died and I wanted to just do it for him. I don't want to do it, but just for him. So become more religious, and part of that influence is your parents. That make sense? Question is, how do you plan to take care of our largest investment, our youth, in this environment? So it's a good question. To raise a child, it takes a village. It's not just the imam's job. It's not just the board's job. It's not just the parents' job. It's the community's job. This is important that we all work together. You know, it's not your child, it's our child. So that concept has to be straight. Secondly, it's my process of it's complete brainwash. It's manipulation. It's making the children feel that they are happy in the house of Allah. They're happy around righteous things. They can live without video games. They can live without gadgets. They can live and practice Islam, enjoy Islam. And what is there enjoyable in this masjid? You see Xbox 360, nothing here. But we have to make sure the children are attracted to goodness. And some children are easier, some children are difficult. For that we need to have structured, not just open the gym and let them play. Structured events, structured camps, structured ideas outside the masjid, hosting them. The Prophet ﷺ, you know, you find stories with the Prophet teaching the Sahaba, but you know all those journeys the Prophet was traveling with them? He was working with them. The youth that came close to the Prophet ﷺ were helping the Prophet and volunteering and preparing for the journeys. They built a special relationship. You know, and that is very important. One of the most important things is the youth need mentorship. They need guidance. They need a role model. You know, sometimes the parent isn't the exact role model they're looking for. They need someone else. So there is not one punch answer for this, but I still need to analyze the community here. I don't know it really well. I'm still studying it. You have a lot of programs, but I think the programs are not interconnected. They need to all be put together, where every child and every age group is put in a way that they all come out to be something special. Like when this golden product is going through the refinery system, it is something very special in the end. And I think it's going to take a work together. And a lot of times parents will blame the school for not giving the children good Islamic knowledge. But the question is, they're bringing that from home. So you also need to monitor them at home. So we have to work together. It's not one-sided. It's easy to play the blame game. Oh, Imam Sahib, you didn't do this, or the school didn't do this. It's double-sided. I hope I answered that question. It's not a just one-punch answer. I wish I had it. What is the best way to balance between wife, children, and parents overseas? The first way to balance this is the most important person in your life is your wife. Without her, there's no life. Right? It's just, this is not romantic. This is real. Because she was there before you had children, and she will be there after your children move out. So the most important person in your relationship is your spouse and your husband. Sometimes we ignore our husbands for our children. Sometimes we ignore our wives for our parents. That's not the right way to do it. The Prophet ﷺ was a Fatima, but Fatima didn't have too much time with Muhammad ﷺ. She was busy with Ali. You understand? So this is important. Sometimes we need to understand that there are rights of parents. But your parents have to also understand they have to forsake some of their rights because you're married now. I'm married. And now the most important person in our house is the husband. If the husband and wife don't live in harmony, it affects the children. This is why divorce is one of the most dangerous things, because the loss of divorce is not within the two, it's within the children if there are children. We know this single family system. The most people that suffer, the wife and the husband, whoever is richer gets half of the money, they're happy. What about the children? And the lawyers are really happy. So it's really important that the wife and husband, they live in harmony together. They are the most important element in the relationship. I know we've been with each other for so long, we can't wait till we get to Jannah and we can refine our beauty again. I can imagine some wives in Jannah, they'll be chilling in Jannah, and the husbands all of a sudden show up like, oh, you came here too? I thought I lost you on the way. But the reality is that that's your husband and that's your wife, and you're not going to find someone better. Allah chose this for you, and they're your journey to Jannah. So we need to take care of each other, and the best form of taking care of is respecting each other, not disrespecting. We as men are not entitled to be better than the women. The Prophet ﷺ never physically or verbally abused his wives. Never. You would never find a narration where the Prophet yelled at his wife. Never. He stopped talking to them, but he never abused them. So and then their children. Of course, children come number two. Of course, if your children are in trouble or they need some medication, your husband needs a paratha, we can ignore the warm bread for the medication, common sense priorities. And of course, parents who are overseas, if they are siblings, all together we support our parents. They're the most important thing. With need in time, if there's holidays, we should visit them. With common understanding with the spouse, I want to visit my parents overseas, can I go for 1 month? There is no problem with that as long as there's understanding, and that's how the rights are fulfilled. But the most important factor is your spouse. A lot of times I hear complaints in family that spouses are ignored. What happens when your husband is ignored? Cheating. It's very heavy. Indulgence in opposite gender relationships. You cannot ignore your spouse on any cost. Even if he's a bad spouse or she's a bad spouse, you have to give them respect and love. And there's so much more on this. It's a different topic.
I think you answered that, but that's...
What kind of engagement an imam should have youth, in your opinion? I think the most important engagement the imam should have is be the friend. Before you become an imam to the youth, you should be the friend of the youth. The Prophet ﷺ is sitting with a sahabi behind him, Abdullah ibn Abbas. He says, Ya ghulam, oh my young friend, oh youngster. And he made him feel like he was part of a friendship. So making the youth, treat your youth like your friend. Khalil, make them feel comfortable around you. If they have any question, they should never hesitate to ask the imam. And the imam should never judge them. And that's, I think, this is my opinion. First be their friend. And then before you preach to them, you win their hearts. You win their heart, you won them. You win their hearts, you won them. There were kids in my community that they would pray in salah in the worst form of clothing. Never said anything to them. And as time grew, they understood the Sheikh didn't like this, and this is not what he liked. And now, different personality around. I didn't have to tell them. They're telling others. They respect their personality, and you give them. Youth just want someone to talk to. They want someone to make them feel special. Hear them, joke with them, win their hearts. And that's my opinion. I think it's just become good friends with them, something that parents don't have time for. Because they're so busy with other siblings and responsibilities. That's closed. Yeah, what advice do you have for young Muslims who are confused and becoming victims of extremists? The statistics prove that, and we talked about this with the media. Yeah, what advice do we have with students who are becoming victims to extremism or extremist ideologies? It's a fact that those youth who are not connected to the masjid, they are more vulnerable to become extremists. For your child to stay moderate, it's important and vital that he's connected to the local masjid. The Boston bombers, they were not connected to the masjid. The New York attacks, anywhere you look. Anytime you talk to the FBI, you tell them straightforward, the Orlando shooting, no association to the masjid. Because then, whether there's a conspiracy behind it or not, that's not my discussion. But the fact that the youth wasn't, how could he even be part of a conspiracy plot if he was part of the masjid? As much as you want to blame someone else, it is important that the youth are part of the masjid. It saves them from being brainwashed by these YouTube videos, by self-motivated of extreme ideologies. And that's why it's so important that they don't live on their own and learn on their own. They also have a mentor who teaches them Islam. They can't do this themselves. So it's very dangerous that we have ingrown extremists in America, and that's what the rhetoric is of Donald Trump. He's proving that there's ingrown extremists, and we need anti-terrorism lobbies are working on that, and we have to make sure the imams, the communities have to make sure that we educate our crowd on this. And every youth should be connected to the masjid. And it's proven, I say this again, that those youth who are connected to the masjid are less vulnerable to be involved in any extremist behavior. And they have right mentorship. And if you see anyone who is questioning or moving towards an ideology, it is your right to make sure they're guided to the right place. They're taught with someone educated, they're challenged their beliefs. And as an American, we have pledged to the Constitution that will defend anyone that plots anything against the civilians. We can even report them. It's our responsibility. We're not allowing some crooked ideology to defend. It's just not going to work. How many times the media will come up to me in Michigan and ask me to denounce this attack on terrorism? Of course we're going to denounce it. But the reality is, why is it happening? So it's important that we move ahead on this.
Ask a question.
This is yours? No. Imam Sahib, Assalamu alaikum. Why Plano Masjid? Well, we haven't decided if it's Plano Masjid. That's a secret. I'm going to say this very clearly. I'm very pleased as an imam in the community I am, in Flint. MashaAllah. I'm blessed. I have the nicest people in the world. And I'm happy, and there's no reason for me to move. And I've been offered opportunities from California to across America, bigger masjids and vibrant masjids. But I really see something that's really unique in this community, and I'm going to say that. Is this your question? Okay, you're shaking your head like it's yours. I want to know whose question this is. Whose question is this? Huh? Okay, Jazakallah khair. Yeah. I can't say nothing to you. You have a great hairstyle. Alhamdulillah. The thing is, in this community, if there is the right vision and correct leadership, the potential is very great here. I met the Irving community. I met the Frisco community a few months ago. I met a few other communities in Dallas. Dallas, statistically, is the fastest growing Muslim city in America. So that itself speaks of its own, statistically. Job opportunities, Amazon, people moving in. What else? Toyota. Toyota. I know a little bit about this place. There's so much growth here. It means there are a lot of Muslims coming here, which means that we need to work with these Muslims. The highest number of migration out of a state was Michigan after 2001, in the economy crisis. And the highest immigrants came to Texas. So it only makes sense for me to migrate out of Michigan to come to Texas, if you look at it this way. So that's one of the reasons. Second reason is, I'm very critical about this. Your last Imam was a phenomenal personality. Though some of you maybe liked him, some of you had your own views. But isn't it important that for an Imam coming into a community, there was already a good leadership before coming back? There was a standard that was set. You're not just picking up something that's all spread out. Imam was here, he left on good terms, there wasn't a fight, and there wasn't a firing. It was a very smooth transition. He got a position in somewhere else, very spiritual personality, and I can still feel his effects in this community even now. I've never met that person. SubhanAllah. So I looked at that, when I looked back and I saw people doing dhikr, I noticed this was influence of some Imam. Small things that we don't notice, even in adults. So that was also very meaningful to me because it felt like this community has some strong ruh, spiritual touch to it. It's not just physical, body, structure, building, development. There's a lot of things that I'm still uncomfortable about, and I'm sure people who are talking to me, they're still speculating about me. But this is few of the reasons. And the real reason is the growth, the opportunity of growth in Plano. There's growth everywhere, but there's a lot of good potential here, youth potential. You have the facility. You have the people. Look at how many people come for Isha Salah. Right? You all have children. You all have neighbors. If we put the work together, Fajr and Isha should be so busy, should be packed. They say if people should, on normal basis, you will never have to fundraise because they will know the value of the masjid. Fundraising is a weakness of not knowing the value of the community. You only fundraise when people are not convinced they need a support. Or they don't have money, so you need to kind of take it out of them. Or they're extremely bakhil. So this is why I feel like this community has, and you might have your own opinions, but I think this community, Dallas, is a good place in the sense that it's modernly built structure-wise, the highways, the schools, the living standards are also good for people who are coming here. And like I said, I'm very pleased in Flint, and it might take almost a perfect community for me to move out. And I'm going to say this again, it's just, I'm really happy in Flint, mashallah, I'm so blessed. Sometimes I feel like I'm ungrateful to those people, and not many Imams will say that. I've been there for 5 years, and I can't say one thing wrong about those people. And I can only wish they find someone better if I leave. And right now, and it's going to be convincing for my wife to move here. She wants a good school, and there are really not that many Ivy League schools here. So it's going to be a challenge leaving my family, my brothers, my parents in Michigan, born and raised in Michigan. It definitely won't be a challenge of leaving the cold. When I was heading to the airport, my wife was like, "Take your coat." I was like, "I'm not taking my coat. I don't want to see the coat." So there are good things here, and I see one of the potentials I see. A lot of students are becoming hafiz. What are they doing after they become hafiz? Those students also need to be mentored. The next step. I feel like there's so much hifz, but there's no follow-up. There needs to be a program aligned for these type of students, for the young sisters. So much needs to be done. Their voices need to be heard. They need someone to talk to, or even share their opinions with. Approachable person. So I think there's a lot to do, and I'm not going to share my accomplishments in Flint. I feel like I just hope all the effort that I made doesn't just get wasted. But I'm coming from literally the poorest city in America, Flint. But I live in a community that the opposite side of it's the wealthiest Muslim community. Our average fundraiser in half an hour is over $1 million. On Ramadan night. SAMS, the Syrian organization, will have their own fundraiser in Detroit for the entire metropolitan area, and they will have one in a basement that I will do for them in my city, which will double their money almost. So it's that much potential in finance and support. We have a full Islamic school from kindergarten to grade 12, Ivy League. Our banquet hall is $2 million. If you're thinking about your marriage of your child, just come by. But that's really there's growth there and there's growth here. But I think I can see a lot of opportunity here, a lot of youth here. I want to see the vision in the next 10 years. What will be the vision of this community? What will be our youth, the leadership for our youth, and from there we'll go on. That's all. Yeah. So I'm being involved in the community in Michigan. I was involved in the outreach of my community. It's impossible for the imam to do everything, and that's why you have committees, right? And I come up with the ideas of the outreach sometimes, the themes, the topics. I go to retreats with evangelical pastors. I just recently went to a retreat. 6 chosen of the imams of Michigan, of that area, and 6 of the biggest evangelical pastors. And evangelicals are 50 million in America. 50 million. If they want to vote one way, they're going to vote. This is why this recent scandal against this one evangelical Georgia senator was a huge problem, is because evangelicals are supposed to be conservative and they're not supposed to do this. So we were with this evangelical group, and this one person at his church that I was with, average donation on Sunday is $79,000. $79,000. So we have to work with them. You have to build alliance with them. And for me, I know our children are the most important, without a doubt, our community, but you cannot survive in this community without building bonds with them. Not when there is a need, we need to. We need to reach out to them, and the imam should be the face of some of the interfaith stuff. But I'm not the biggest expert in it, and I cannot act like I know everything about the Bible, because that's not my expertise. We can share with those who are experts, and we can tackle these issues. I have an interfaith event coming up in 2 weeks in my community, and we're expecting 400, 300 people. It's just coffee and tea with Muslims. And the theme is the message of the prophets. The message is all the same. Tawheed. We'll talk about it, and I meet up with the mayor of the city. I meet with the non-Muslim community, the sheriff. Recently, we had an unfortunate attack on the sheriff of the airport of Flint. Some Muslim guy came from Canada, and he stabbed him. My Muslim community, and we collected $10,000 and gave it to the victim. Alhamdulillah, he survived. A Muslim stabbed a non-Muslim police officer at the airport. You heard about this. So our Muslim community got together, and I kind of spearheaded this whole idea. Though I'm the imam teaching kids and helping the community, this is our job. Just on the table, I talked about last week with the board. I said, listen, we need to take $10,000, $20,000 to the victims of those who were shot in the church last week. What are we doing? We need to take the check and deliver it with my hand or someone's hand to let them know we care about them. So there's so much. You can't do everything. When you think you want a Superman imam, you're just not real. No one is Superman. That's just a show. And second of all, imams need to be kind of balanced. Sometimes the imam will be an expert in this, sometimes he won't be an expert in this, so we have to fill in the gap. But I'm pro all of that. I'm American, I'm born and raised here, and I'm heavy on this. I feel like if we lose out on it, we have a big problem. You know what the problem in this community is? You have so many Muslims, that's so much work already within the Muslim community. If someone is already doing it, say Ikna is doing it, for example, or Isna is doing it, or the neighboring community is doing it, that's good. We should join up with them maybe. So look at the potential. It's all many ideas. I don't know enough about this place. I'm still researching, but that's how I would look at it. Barakallah feek. We'll take this brother's question. He's a new person in the community. Last question, yes. Yeah. I'm not going to cook the food. And if food is there, I'm going to be there. Yeah. But I think the fastest, the best way to get to a man is getting to his stomach. And the best way to get to a woman is giving her a ring. So I think that's inevitable. We're going to have to provide sufficient ikram and muhabba. Part of giving love is giving food. But we don't want the community to just come for food and not come for the program. So sometimes communities get spoiled on this aspect, and they say they want more. Today we got pizza, we want shawarma, and then tomorrow they want butter chicken. So you have to balance this. But food is definitely a key element of attraction to the masjid. We'll definitely use that. جزاكم الله خير.
Jazakallah khair, Imam Muhammad Abdullah Waheed Sahab.